Hello there, I am Sriqui23, or Game Night 23 as I've been known by recently. I'm coming back again with another video. This time I'm going to be going over my Genesis collection, as well as my rather small Sega CD collection. Over here I have the system that I'm using, and this thing may look rather strange to a lot of you. This is what's called a CDX. It's, you see, Sega, they eventually, on top of the Genesis, they also released an add-on for the Genesis called the Sega CD that would play CD-based games. And this is basically the combined system. It plays both of them. And this one is actually rather rare. It's valued at around $390, making it probably one of the more valuable things in my collection. Unfortunately, I'd have to knock off some dollars for this because this thing, unfortunately, the CD portion doesn't work. It's probably just that the laser's gone bad. Like, I'll probably have to replace it. Probably won't be too much of a hassle, but I only have a couple of Sega CD games, and they're not exactly the sort of things that I need to play right now, so I've kind of been putting it off, and the cartridge section still works. Although, weirdly enough, this thing actually takes batteries, and what you can do is that if it were working, you could actually unplug this thing from the TV and use it as a portable CD player. And yeah, I know that's weird. I don't know why you would ever do something like that. It's rather large for a portable CD player, but they give you the option for whatever reason. Now down here, I have a bunch of various controllers and peripherals for my Genesis. First off, this is your classic 3-button Sega Genesis controller. This is actually, because it uses a 9-pin plug, like, as you can see. This thing is actually compatible with a strikingly large amount of hardware that it wasn't really intended for. But, yeah, this is the original, and it looks cool. Now over here, I have the 6-button pad. Most games didn't use all the buttons here. Like, you can use this as a 3-button gamepad, but I think the only games that really utilized all 6 buttons were mostly fighting games. And in here, I also have this arcade stick. It's very cool. It's got like turbo and stuff like that. I think this is a third-party one. It's cool for more arcadey style games like shoot 'em ups and stuff on my Genesis. And I also have this thing. This is the Sega Genesis Game Genie. Much like with the NES Game Genie, what this thing does is it basically hacks your games to allow you to have, like, give yourself infinite lives, skip to certain levels, all kinds of stuff like this. This one, though, actually has an additional function on top of that, in that I can actually use this as a region bypass to basically let me play Japanese games, or at least most of them. Some of them have region locking, but the majority of Japanese games will work just fine with this thing. I actually don't yet have any Japanese games yet, but I'm looking forward to maybe getting some in the future. That'll be cool. Now, over here, I have my box Genesis games. Now, the Genesis, their boxes were plastic and of much higher quality than Nintendo's cardboard ones, for the most part. So people tended to keep the boxes more with these. A few of them did use cardboard, especially later in their life, and you can see I've got some of them here, but in general, it's much easier to find complete in-box Genesis games than it is for most other systems from that period. So here, I've got, like, Echo the Tides of Time. This one's cool. It's kind of an early example of, like, a very atmospheric, sort of arty game. This one's kind of an early flight simulator. I've got, The Lion King, Lotus 2, Mortal Kombat. This one's really cool. What it is, this was a port of the 1992 arcade game that was very controversial at the time because of how much blood and gore it had. And at the time, it actually played a big part in sort of the 16-bit console wars, where Nintendo censored the blood and gore in their version of the game, but for this Genesis version, you could have it with a code. And the Genesis version, as a result, outsold the Super Nintendo version, I think something like 3 or 4 to 1. So yeah, I've got Mortal Kombat 2, which basically improved on the original in just about every way. I've got, let's see, I've got Pitfall, I got Road Rash and Road Rash 2. Those are both really fun racing games. Sonic 2, which is, of course, a classic. Got Valis 3 here, which is, this one's probably the most valuable and rarest Genesis game I own. It's worth about $53. It's very cool. I was able to find that. Then down here I have Starflight. This one's really cool. It's a port of an old PC game from, I believe, 1986 or 87. And it was massively influential to the point where it was one of the very first sort of open world space exploration games, and it influenced games like Mass Effect and a lot of other stuff that came later. And I actually had to get this thing complete in box simply for the manual. You can see how thick this thing is. That's because it's not just a manual, it's basically like a small novel that gives you crucial hints and stuff, and this is a great version of that game, and I haven't gotten to play it yet, but I'm really looking forward to it. This one's a real classic. Lastly, in terms of my box Genesis games, I have Virtua Racing here. Virtua Racing was an arcade game. It was one of the very first polygon racing games, and naturally the Genesis couldn't really do this by itself, and that's why it has this oversized cartridge here, because they had to include these special chips inside of it to let it run 3D, and it actually runs surprisingly well, a lot better than, say, Star Fox on the Super Nintendo, which was kind of Nintendo's own polygon game that they did at the time. And it's a shame that later versions that came out would be better, but this one was very solid, surprisingly so for its time. Then here I've got all my loose Genesis games, like I've got the Genesis 6-pack, which was one of the first games I had for the Genesis. It contains Sonic 1, Streets of Rage, Golden Axe, The Revenge of Shinobi, Columns, and Super Hang-On, and just an excellent selection of games and a great introduction to the Genesis library. I've got Disney's Aladdin here. This one's really cool. What's interesting about it is that the actual animators from Disney actually contributed to the sprites in this game, so it looks really good. It looks very authentic to the movie. Altered Beast, which is the original sort of pack-in game for the system. A lot of people really don't like this game. I personally think it's okay. It's no masterpiece, but it's decent. Castle of Illusion, that one's really fun. I've got Cool Spot, which is based on it's a game based on the 7-Up logo, and you'd think it'd be terrible, but it's actually a pretty good game. Let's see, I've got I've got some other stuff like General Chaos. That one's actually a really fun multiplayer game. They actually did make a 4-player adapter for the Genesis. I unfortunately don't have it, but this is one of the few games that really uses it. Light Crusader, that one, it kind of plays a bit like Zelda, but from an isometric perspective, it's really good. Kind of underrated, actually. NBA Jam Tournament Edition, that's probably one of the most famous basketball games ever made. It really kind of eschewed realism and was very cartoony, but in a good way. It really kind of brought a lot of excitement to the game. NHL 94 is widely considered by many to be one of the greatest hockey games ever made. Let's see, I've got all other stuff like RoboCop versus the Terminator, which is really fun. Rocket Knight Adventures is really cool. Shadow Dancer, The Secret of Shinobi, that's one of my favorites. Sonic the Hedgehog 3, actually, what's interesting about this one is that I not only have that one, but I also have this, Sonic and Knuckles, and this is a weird cartridge that you're looking at. The way that originally this was supposed to be, this and Sonic 3 were going to be one big game, but because of size limitations and because they were running out of time to develop the game, they ended up splitting it up into two. So the idea is that if you want the full experience, you'd have to you could play each one individually, but if you wanted the full experience, you had to stick Sonic 3 onto this thing and stick them both into your Genesis, and it would sort of combine the two. And you could even combine this with other games, like if you combine it with Sonic 2, it puts the character Knuckles in that game, and with various other games, it would unlock sort of Blue Sphere mini games. A really cool idea. No other game I know I've really used it. Let's see, I've got Streets of Rage 2. That's probably one of the best beat 'em ups ever made. Star Control, that one's real. I'm a huge fan of Star Control 2, and while the original isn't as good, it's really great to go back to. I really enjoy it. Strider, which is a great port of the arcade game. Thunder Force 2, that one's a really classic shoot 'em up. Down here I've got a few more, like Tyrants, which was originally an Amiga game called Megalomania. Wonder Boy and Monster World, that one is actually really good. It's basically like it's kind of a proto Metroidvania sort of game. The best way I can really describe it is that it's kind of Zelda 2 done right, if you ask me. It's really good. World of Illusion, that's good. Zero Tolerance, this one is rather interesting. It's a first-person shooter that's exclusive to the Genesis, and at the time, that was kind of unheard of, and most of the first-person shooters on consoles at the time were really terrible, and this one certainly hasn't aged the best, but it's interesting. Like, it would have been certainly cut above most of what was out there at the time, and it's interesting to see how they kind of tried to work around the technical limitations at the time. But yeah, those are my loose Genesis games. Now, coming over here, I'm gonna show you my few Sega CD games. I only really have 3 of them. First off, I have Soul Feast here. Yeah, it's a shoot 'em up, kind of like R-Type or Gradius. I also have Sherlock Holmes Consulting Detective and Volume 1, as well as the Sega Classics Arcade Collection. It's sort of a 2-for-1 thing. I think it came packaged with some Sega CD units. And lastly, I have Sherlock Holmes Consulting Detective Volume 2. All decent games, but again, nothing that I absolutely need to rush out and get the Sega CD function on my system fixed to go play it. Unfortunately, with Sega CD games, the vast majority of, while it had a lot of really good games, the best ones on the system were really rare and expensive, so they're very hard to come by. So overall, my system that I mentioned is worth about $390. Knock some of that off because it's not fully functional right now, so I'd say it's maybe worth about $320 to $350 now. Uh, in terms of peripherals, they're probably worth about $50. In terms of games, I have 69 Genesis games, and that comes out to a value of about $1,033. My most valuable game is Valis 3, which is worth about $53. And tied for my second and third most valuable games are my Complete in Box Starflight and Complete in Loose Rocket Knight Adventures. Um, in terms of Sega CD, I only have three of them. They're worth in total about $48, most valuable of which being Soul Feast, which is worth about $21. Overall, it's a great system that I enjoy. I definitely hope to get more games for it in the future, and it's one that I holds a special place in my heart because I actually do kind of remember it from my childhood. It was one of the first video game systems I ever can remember playing, even before the I got my Nintendo 64, which was the first system I ever really delved deep into. But even then, like I didn't play that much when I was younger, mostly at my cousin Joanna's house. Shout out to you, Joanna. But as a result, I don't remember many games for it. But so the system definitely has a lot of surprises for me. That pleasant surprises for the most part. It has a lot of really cool games that I had no idea about when I was younger, and that I've really loved going back to. But yeah, that's it for now. I hope you enjoy this video. Please remember to like, comment, and subscribe. And I will see you next time. Take care.